a relationship to a nice guy is his savior. A relationship is like his lifeline support. He'll always need to be in one. When we don't have our core dependency needs met in childhood, we become overly dependent on a woman. To really going from man to leader is him really attaching himself to a greater mission and purpose that's far greater than him.
3.5 years ago, Talia, my first daughter, was born. I had the houses, the $1 million, the cars, the toys, the marriage. I was severely depressed. I wanted to kill myself. The difference between the Tony that was about to end his life and the Tony that loves his life today was not money. It was the decision to take responsibility and integrate.
The longest road a man will ever go through and from is from his head to his heart. There's another journey, it's from his heart to his balls. But from his head to his heart, that's boy to man. And then from heart to balls is...
How does a man take what you've taught today and live consciously?
To live consciously is to...
Today we have Ryan Moresby White talking about how to become a better man, how to stop being a little boy. We unpack the trauma that every single man has experienced and continues to experience. So whether you're the nice guy trying to people please everyone around you, or you're the high performer who's successful in making money and wealth, but your marriage, health, relationships are falling apart, this episode will change your life. We covered mission and purpose. We covered how to take control of your sexual energy, take your balls back, how to get more sex and desire, and ultimately how to be a better father, husband, and man. So if you want to man the fuck up, grow the fuck up so that you can have true success in life, this episode is for you. Check it out. You're going to love it. All right, we got Ryan Moresby White in the house. Bro, I'm so fucking excited. Your content is absolute fire. You're changing so many men's lives. And these ideas of healing the boy within, trauma, purpose, being a king, bang on what men need right now. So first of all, brother, thank you for being on the pod. How are you feeling today?
Oh man, I'm feeling excited. Any chance and opportunity to share this magic and share my gift is, just so blessed and grateful to be here, bro. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, brother. And the beard is fucking epic, man. That is a dream for me right now.
It's strong, hey.
So bro, let's talk about you and your journey. Like if you were to explain to the listeners at home, what do you actually do and why is it important? Like, give us a summary of what you do.
Yeah, so basically the work that I take men through is really helping them heal the little boy within them and awaken the man. Now, there's 3 stages that I actually take men through their healing journey. And it's from boy to man to then leader. Now, when I say healing the boy, what I'm really actually speaking of is the suppressed and repressed emotions that a man is held onto his entire life based on the unmet needs that he actually had in childhood. There's core emotional needs, which I'm sure we'll get into, that a man needs in childhood to feel safe enough to build a strong connection to himself, along with the rites of passage and the initiation from boy to man. And when that's skipped over time, and when he doesn't have his core emotional needs met, he disconnects from his true self. He disconnects from his power, and he becomes whoever the fuck he needs to be in order to be loved, accepted, to be liked, to fit in, and whatever. So it's really the journey that I take men through is the first one is healing the boy. So it's healing that little boy within him who's actually the one who's running the show. Until we actually go back in and work with those suppressed emotions in the body, his life is actually built upon the foundation of the shame, the guilt, the fear of abandonment, right? And that's where the nice guy comes from. That's where the people pleaser comes from. That's where the high performer who becomes depressed comes from, because he's seeking to prove his worth to the world. Yet beneath that is the little boy who's actually still seeking the love and connection from his dad that he didn't receive. Yeah. So the very first step is healing the boy. Then it's awakening the man. That's a natural byproduct of a man healing the little boy. There's so much out there in like the men's workspace around men being this grounded, integrated, masculine man, or being this safe space, this safe pillar of emotional support in relationship. There's so much around like masculine and feminine embodiment work. I see like a lot of like the tantric world coming into like the masculine embodiment stuff. And I was in that for a long time and nothing actually shifted for me. Nothing actually fucking changed. And what it actually did for me was it perpetuated the shame that there's something wrong with me because I still can't get it right. I still can't be this strong pillar of emotional support for my partner, right? But beneath that was a little boy who was stuck in survival. So that grounded man who doesn't see his partner's emotions as a threat is the byproduct of a man healing the little boy who sees his partner's emotions as a threat. So that's just the byproduct. Then the next stage from once you've awakened the man is then leader. So this is where, and most men try and skip this. They just try and go straight to leader, and they have this whole life of baggage and this little boy that's actually running the show, and they're wondering why their business is struggling. They're wondering why they feel depressed. And most of them don't actually know that they're depressed, right? They just wonder why they're procrastinating, why tasks are so much harder than they should be, like simple tasks, right? Or why a man like isolates himself from being in community, being in brotherhood, right? So really going from man to leader is him really attaching himself to a greater mission and purpose that's far greater than him. Right. And the power in that is when a man does that and he's integrated the boy, where the boy is no longer in control. Now he's actually able to operate from a deeper meaning of purpose and mission in his life. Now, the man who he becomes in attaching himself to a purpose or a mission that's far greater than him is what's most important. And that's the man that's not seeking for a relationship to feel good. That's a man who's actually in his power, in his purpose, has deep meaning and fulfillment in his life, and is therefore actually able to provide for a family, not just financially, but emotionally as well, because of the man he has to become in order to actually actualize that mission and that purpose. So those are the 3 stages that I really take a man through. And that's what I've been through in my own journey to initiate into what I've created today.
That's so fucking powerful, bro. I want to dive into each of these boy, man, leader categories and the common symptoms that are there. It strikes a nerve with me because I thought I was a leader. Like, I've made 12 million online. I've had 2 children. I've coached 5,000 men. I thought I was the fucking man. And we run these retreats every 6 months. And every 6 months, I'd be stuck in this state of stress, overwhelm. And every time we do any of those tantric or cathartic or breathwork exercises, I'd be fucking screaming or bawling my eyes out. And this year is the first year of my life. It's only been 21 days. It started 2 months ago before my second daughter, where I truly feel aligned, fulfilled, stress-free. But I lied to myself for 32 and a half years about those things. I pretended like everything was okay. And I've noticed that so many men will look in the mirror and tell themselves, I'm the man. I've got my shit together. I'm successful. But when you peel back that curtain, their marriage is falling apart. They're so fat they can't see their dick anymore. They're depressed, they're stressed, they're anxious, and they either lie to themselves about that or they're not even aware of it. So as we step into these categories of boy, man, leader, like, what are the common symptoms, like the ones I experienced that I wasn't even fucking aware of the boy? How does a man who's got a $10 million business and a marriage that's happy look in the mirror and go, you know what, I'm a fucking boy? Because the ego gets in the way. How do you do that? Like, what are the symptoms?
Yeah, and that's the thing with especially high performing men. It's like we've built such a strong sense, like such a strong connection to our false self, right? It's been built over the years. So basically what happens, we're welcomed into this world, right? We're welcomed as this perfect fucking miracle that you are. 1 in 400 trillion chances of us being born, which it's a miracle in itself, right? Now, we are welcomed into this world with traits, characteristics, and these gifts, right? But what happens is when we don't have our core emotional needs met as a little boy, we disconnect from ourselves. So what happens is we start to fragment and we start developing and cultivating this false sense of self. Now, that false sense of self, as I shared before, is then built on the foundation of shame that there's something inherently wrong or broken within me, right? And then every decision, everything he does in his entire life is built on that foundation of shame, that there's something inherently wrong, or I'm not worthy of love. So I must be and become whoever I need to be in order to be loved, in order to be good enough. So that little boy transfers that need to feel worthy, to feel good enough, right? From receiving it from his parents, he realizes I can get this from the world.
Yeah.
Right. So then he starts seeking women. He starts seeking the validation, creating success, but from the place of the little boy who's actually still seeking to feel like he's enough because he didn't have his core emotional needs met in childhood.
Yeah.
So that's why when he creates it or he gets the relationship, it never actually feels enough, because what's seeking his love and attention is a little boy within him, the unresolved trauma that's built up over a long period of time that's stuck in his body. right? So this false sense of self, he's lived in such a state of survival his entire life that his ego has formed and shaped this self-image, this false image of who he actually is. And it's an image of who he thinks he needs to be for the world in order to be loved and accepted and to fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how a man gets to this point is he has to get out of his head. The longest journey, the longest road a man will ever go through and from is from his head to his heart. And there's another journey is from his heart to his balls, and really developing in like an integrity with his sexual energy.
Yeah.
Right. But from his head to his heart is really where he that's boy to man, head to heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from heart to balls is man to leader.
Yeah.
Because the integrity it takes to cultivate your sexual energy and to bring it forth into the world and actually put it towards your greater mission and purpose instead of fucking wasting it as most men do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from the head to heart is healing the little boy. So the journey for my journey was me, first of all, getting out of my head and building that connection with my heart.
What do you mean by getting out of your head though? Like what does getting out of your head mean? What does being in your head mean?
Yeah. So being in my is living in a state of fear and survival or anxiety or depression or whatever.
Stress?
Stress could absolutely come from the fear of either not being able to reach your potential, right? Or the fear of not being able to make ends meet, or to, maybe it's the anxiety of something that's going to happen in the future, right? But most men that are living in a state of anxiety are fearful of something that's going to happen in the future that hasn't yet happened yet. But they're fearful of that. They're projecting into their future of something that might happen based on what happened in their past, based on what happened in the little boy. So when we come back to, first of all, getting out of our head is, and for my journey, it was cultivating a relationship with my breath. Yeah. And it was allowing myself to get quiet enough in my mind to create enough stillness to actually listen to what my body was trying to speak to me. Because the conscious mind is only around 5%, right? The subconscious is the 95%. Right. And most men are trying to create change and trying to build this false identity, this false sense of self from the conscious mind. And it takes for us to actually silence that, to listen to the 95% of what's actually happening beneath the surface. And typically it's a little boy that is screaming, kicking and screaming, trying to have his needs met through the world. Yeah.
Just really quickly, if you're getting value from this podcast episode, I'd appreciate a massive favor. If you're watching on YouTube, give this a thumbs up, or if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other platform, give this 5 stars. It helps us reach more men, keep more families together, and get better guests onto the show. So if you're getting value, all that I ask is you take 5 seconds to give it a thumbs up or 5 stars so we can help more people and keep delivering you epic value. And this is why I asked about stress, because a lot of guys will listen to what you said and be like, yeah, but that's not me. Like, I'm not anxious. I'm not depressed. I work hard. I've just got a lot on my plate and my team don't perform. And now you and I both know that there's something underneath that. And you said something about the false self, which we'll dive into. So for a man to create stillness and quiet, like, that is very fucking difficult for most men. You come home after a long day, you're exhausted. The house is a mess. The kids are screaming. Your wife doesn't want to fuck you. Like, you want to sedate. You don't even realize you're doing it. And to sit still with your own mind is torture for most men. So is this where self-sabotage comes in? You got this false self. You've got this stillness that you can't create. Is this where men who are boys self-sabotage? It's where they sedate. It's where they fuck up their marriages. Like, what are the symptoms of this type of guy? How does a man know that he's been a boy? Like, how do you know?
Yep. So the self-sabotage, the way I like to explain it, is like the elephant and the rider, right? So imagine an elephant and you're sitting on top of the elephant as the rider. You're the conscious mind. The elephant is the subconscious. Let's say that the rider, you as the rider, you're like, I want to go left. Let's go left. Let's go left. Because that's where I want to be. That's the life I want to create. That's the amount of money I want to make per month. That's the relationship I want to have. And you try so hard to make the elephant go left. And you think you're going, you even create a delusion with the affirmations and all of the shit, right? With the mindset of like, this is where I'm going, this is what's happening. Yet the elephant's always going to go to what's familiar. It's going to go to survival. It's going to go to where it sees food, because that's what's safe for it. And this is where we create this disconnect, this cognitive bias, this cognitive dissonance, where we actually move further away, and it actually perpetuates the shame. So it's actually creating stillness. What that looks like for a man is like building that relationship with his breath. It's the direct connection to our nervous system. But the biggest issue most men have with actually creating stillness is that they're living in such a state of survival where they didn't gain the strengths they were supposed to gain in childhood to actually learn how to self-soothe and regulate their nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When we don't have our core dependency needs met in childhood, right, we become overly dependent on a woman to make us feel good, right? This is where a man is deeply stressed. He has no idea what to do with his emotions. He's a high-performing man. He's creating success. He's doing all of this stuff. Then he gets home and he has zero emotional capacity for his partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's so disconnected emotionally from himself because he's living in such a state of survival based on the toxic shame of he's not doing enough and he needs to do and achieve in order to be loved. He can't just be loved for who he is. So what happens is, as a little boy, when we don't have our dependency needs met, where it's, I can depend on you to, first of all, as the caregivers, them being emotionally regulated with themselves, deeply connected to themselves, and a healthy expression, a healthy example of emotional connection. This little boy doesn't have that safety to be in his own world, to connect with his own emotions, to know that his anger is okay, to know that his sadness is okay, to know that it's okay to fully express what he's feeling. Now, when he doesn't have that, survival's more important. This is where that disconnect starts happening, and he starts building that false self. So he bees and becomes whoever he needs to be to get attention, to be seen, to be loved, to be validated, right? And in doing so, he's so focused on that he's disregarding his strength that he was supposed to gain as a little boy in developing and cultivating a connection to his own emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that false self is just built over time where he then becomes, let's say, a 40-year-old man who's made hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And these are the kinds of men I've actually worked with, and they just have zero emotional capacity for the people he loves most.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the thing. This is where he sabotages the relationship. He thinks that he has to do and achieve in order to be loved. Right. So he's out there and he's doing his best to create success. Right. And in doing so, he's lacking the emotional capacity to support and provide what a woman needs most, which is emotional support, what a family needs most, which is emotional support. And he's failing to provide that over time because he's so focused on providing in this way that he actually sabotages it over time because he doesn't have the emotional capacity for her to rely and depend and lean on him emotionally. Yeah. So that's how it's one of the biggest forms of self-sabotage I see with high-performing men.
Yeah.
Would be that in relationships. Yeah.
We completely destroy everything, and we know we're doing it, and we feel that guilt and shame when we do it. And a lot of this is happening subconsciously, right? Like you come home after a long day, and I spoke at AREC and everyone laughed at this joke. I didn't think it was funny. It was serious. Like you don't drive home and go, man, how am I going to fuck up my marriage tonight? I can't wait to argue with my wife. What am I going to poke today? You don't do it, right? And it's true. We don't plan this, but we come home, we get triggered about something stupid. We don't know how to control those emotions. We let the anger out. Then we're pissed off at our partner. We play the blame game, self-sabotage. Then that night, as we're lying in bed, not able to sleep, we feel that guilt and shame and we go, fuck, I did it again. Mm-hmm. And it's this vicious Groundhog Day and cycle. So what you're saying is this comes down to this idea of as a child, you weren't getting your emotional needs met, mm-hmm. right? That causes you to create this false self, and then you self-sabotage because of that. Mm-hmm. And this is why so many men, the $100 million man, I did everything right. She left me overnight. No, she didn't. You ignored the fucking warning signs. Mm-hmm. Now, everything you're talking about requires a deep level of awareness mm-hmm. to challenge what happened in your childhood, to challenge your subconscious, to look at your emotions. How do you get a high-performing man who has a big fucking ego to do that before his wife leaves, yep. right? How many men come to you? It's my wife has left. Come to me, my wife has left. How does a man listening to this go, fuck, I have this problem, I need to fix it? How do I go from boy to man? How do I face these demons?
Yeah. Fuck, and you know it all so well.
Yeah.
Is that unfortunately it takes most men to hit rock bottom for their partner to leave them.
Yeah.
And it fucking cracks them open where they, for the first time, ask a bigger question of like, why?
Yeah.
How did I get here?
Yeah.
Right. Now, why I reckon it takes men to get to that point is because their ego, the false self, is so hardened
Yeah.
Right? It takes for that to fucking crack them open.
Yeah.
Where they've got no other option or choice but to ask, how the fuck did I get here?
Yeah.
How did this happen? Right? That's the greatest question he can ask. Or he could listen to this podcast and change from a place of inspiration instead of a place of pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how he begins that journey is our life today, everything that's playing out, happening in our world today, the triggers, the business, let's say, the lack of success that you're creating, that you want to create for yourself, right? Everything that's playing out today, the insecurities, the triggers, all of that is a direct reflection of exactly what happened as a little boy.
Yeah.
Right? I went through a relationship breakup where my partner left me in an empty villa in Bali. I was by myself on my own. And it was like, yeah, this was a matter of time before this happened, because the unconscious self-sabotaging program was, it's a matter of time before the people I love most leave me.
That was a subconscious belief you weren't aware of. That's what you mean by program, right?
Yeah,
For the
based
listener
on
at
the
home.
unresolved grief of the little boy within me who experienced this sense of emotional abandonment in childhood.
Yeah.
And then his parents separating and then not receiving the love that I was supposed to receive from them to feel safe enough to be myself.
Yeah.
So I had this unresolved trauma of this little boy that it's a matter of time before the people I love most leave me or abandon me, right? And then I unconsciously created that through self-sabotaging patterns, right? Because it's more important for us to be attracted to and create experiences based on what we experience in childhood.
Yeah.
Right. So unfortunately, it took me to get to that place. But as I shared before, our world, our current reality right now is just a reflection of what happened as a little boy.
Yeah.
Now, the triggers, all of the emotion, the anxiety, all of that a man experiences today, that is the invitation. Those are the subtle invitations for a man to go in, right, and heal the unresolved trauma of the little boy who's actually playing out. So the man who gets, let's say, reactive or defensive in relationship, within that is the invitation for him to lean in and actually heal the little boy who doesn't have the emotional capacity to hold his partner in the way that she needs to feel safe.
Yeah.
But it takes a level of awareness for him to, yes, get there. And this podcast is that. My content is that. I'm sure your content is that as well. And it's like the feather brick in the truck, right? There are 1,000 invitations, subtle little invitations for a man to face himself and heal that little boy. But for the most part, it takes for the truck to run him over, and fucking reverse over him and run him over again, right? Because he needs to have that ego cracked right open.
If you're getting value from this podcast episode and you want to learn how you can have a better relationship, a better marriage, you can be a better father, husband, the man you know your family deserves, then it's very fucking hard to do that just by listening and getting fed information. Sure, this is valuable, but what's much more valuable is having a custom roadmap and a custom plan. And that's exactly what we do here at The Empowered Man. So if you want to learn how to fix your marriage, reconnect with your children, and find work-life balance, then that's exactly what we want to help you with. We'll help you make more money, working less hours, have that life you deserve by becoming unfuckwithable. Just tap the link down below in the description and go and book a coaching session with my Empowered Man team. On that session, we'll build your custom Empowered Man roadmap to fix your marriage, reconnect with your children, find work-life balance, and have the life you deserve. Click the link down below right now. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we don't realize these things are happening. And now that you talk about it, I always told myself I wouldn't be like my father. He drank, he was an alcoholic, parents separated when I was 4, smoked cigarettes, just complete victim. And I always told myself I wouldn't be that guy. Teenage years became that guy. Had the same heartbreaks. My partner left a week before I was going to propose. And I hated my father, but in hindsight, I hated myself. And all of that trauma had to be unpacked for fucking years to get to the point where I'm at now with Rosie, my wife, where she's my best friend and we have a deep level of connection. And a lot of men are experiencing these same problems. They had a shit childhood. They didn't have dad around, or dad didn't love them, or dad expected more, or mom, or they have this stuff. And then it's reflected in the arguments, the lack of sex, the lack of fulfillment.
Yep.
So if you are a man listening to this, take Ryan's advice, like look in the mirror and go, this is an opportunity to learn and grow. And I can either stay in this pain or I can change it. because you and I both know there's the now pain of change. Like most men are terrified of change. There's the later pain, which is divorce and a broken family. Pick your fucking poison. So let's say a man is listening to this. They want to heal the boy within. They want to go from head to heart, and then they want to grab onto those balls a bit later on and become the leader. What is the process to deal with that trauma? How do you even know you have trauma? How do you unpack trauma? And also, what are the benefits of unpacking trauma? Because for me, business, health, relationships all got better, not when I worked more, when I did this. So how do you heal this trauma? How do you unpack it? And what does it create?
Yeah, the first key step to transformation is awareness, right? So I like to bring it back to sharing what our core emotional needs are in childhood and what happens when we don't actually receive them. Because what that does, it actually paints the picture and it starts opening a man's mind to how has this played out for me? How have I created my reality based on those unmet needs? So the first, and this is really cultivating the awareness of the life that we've created for ourselves today, right? And how that reflects back the unresolved wounds that we experienced in childhood. Until we actually become aware of that and see the thread of how it's played out our entire life, we have no idea how it plays out in the present moment. Until we go back and navigate the past, understand the past, resolve the unresolved energy because here's the thing, until we actually resolve the energy in the body based on the trapped emotion, which is trauma, that emotion will unconsciously be showing up in this moment and you won't know about it and you'll be unaware of it and you'll be making decisions and living and leading from that place. So until we actually go back and heal and express and feel and process that unresolved energy in the body, right? A man actually stays stuck at the energetic level of a little boy. The amount of men I work with, they're like, I feel young. A 40-year-old man who's successful, he's like, I feel like a boy. I feel young. I feel reactive. I feel like I don't have capacity. So until we go back there and recognize how it shows up in this moment, then we can choose different. So it's really two things. It's the first thing, it's going back and working with the past, which we'll get into. And then it's also in this moment, choosing something different. As you just shared before, it's choosing your suffering. It's, do I suffer when I look back at my life and realize who I could have been? Or do I choose suffering now and become the man that I know I'm capable of being, right? So how we actually develop that awareness is understanding the core emotional needs that we needed as a boy to feel safe to be ourselves. So the first one is to know that we're loved, okay? What I mean by this is, and this is where the mother wound comes from. When we don't have these core emotional needs met, this is where the mother wound, and the mother wound is not just the mother. It's the energy of nurturing and care and these three core needs. So to be loved, it's like the bedrock and foundation of love and support, no matter what. Even if I make a mistake, love won't be pulled away. Love isn't used as a tool of manipulation to get me to do things. It's this foundation of who you are at your core is perfect and so fucking lovable. And how we actually also receive that is not just through affirmation, is not just through our parents' actions, but it's also their connection to themselves. Because if they're emotionally dysregulated and not connected to themselves, it's like no one's home. And this child is looking into the face of this caregiver and can sense this feeling of like no one's actually home. That's the scariest thing for a little soul being welcomed into the world.
And that's what creates the wound. So I'm a father.
Yep.
My kids are there. I've had a stressful day and I'm not there.
Yes.
My brain's on work. My wife's talking to me. I don't fucking hear her. Then she says something triggering. I yell at her in front of my kids. Now they see a relationship that's disjointed. These things that every man has experienced or might be going through right now.
Yep.
That's what creates these wounds. That's what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when that child, because we're extremely sensitive as children,
yeah,
right? We're just an open sponge. When this child can feel this sense of no one's home, he's not having it reflected back to him, because the first strength that we gain in development is that I'm you. So when you're not home, there's this sense of disconnection that what the fuck's going on? There must be something inherently wrong or broken with me because this makes no sense.
Yeah. And so the child, sorry to cut in, the child goes, "You're not home, therefore I am wrong," because the child isn't emotionally aware enough to realize that's a story.
Yes.
And then that story goes on to the 40-year-old.
Yes.
How fucking wild is that?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what happens then?
So that's the first core need that we need to have, is this deep unconditional love.
Yes.
Right? The second one is to know that we matter.
Yep.
It's to know that we're a high priority in the world. So for example, when I was a little boy, my dad, we moved from South Africa to Australia. And when we moved here, dad worked 7 days a week. And yes, he didn't have the emotional capacity when he got home from that job. He was providing for us. Like, he came here with like $10,000. He was like, I need to make this work. So he worked 7 days a week. And as a little boy, I always felt like dad goes to this thing where it just feels like there's something that's always more important than me. And when he's home, I can feel that he's not actually home in his body. Yet again, there's just this thing that's just more important than me, right? And with that, how that then played out for me in relationships, it'd be as small as I'd be driving down the road, my partner in the car, and she'd be on her phone. And I would get so fucking triggered. Like, why are you, like, I'm here. Why are you on your phone? Because the little boy within me felt the sense of, yet again, there's something that's more important than me, right? I actually grew up with this silver mentality. I'll always be second place. I grew up racing motocross. I never won because of this story, because of this unconscious belief. So I'd unconscious, because it's more important for us as humans to stay in alignment with what we believe to be true about ourselves. So I would unconsciously sabotage myself to be second. I would see all of my friends doing epic things, amazing things, creating success. I didn't think I was worthy of that because I was a second place person. Or I'd be in a relationship, and then it'd always be this thought of, there's going to be someone out there better than me that you're going to find. Yeah. So there was this anxiousness of, you're eventually going to leave me because there's someone out there that's better than me for you. And it's just a matter of time. Based on this little boy who didn't have this sense of, I matter. Because we're narcissistic in our core. The world has to revolve around us as children, as little boys, to get our needs met. So when that's not happening, right, we're meaning-making machines. And this little boy feels this sense of, who I am, my being is not enough. It doesn't matter. It's not a priority. What also needs to happen in that is to know that we matter, is that our emotional experience matters. A little boy needs to know that I can be angry at my parents, at my dad, and he won't take love away from me. I can be angry at him. Yes, he will set boundaries with that love, but there's this underlying bedrock of love and support there always. There's not this sense of love's pulled away when I'm angry, or love's shut down from me if I express my anger, right? What happens is then, like I shared before, it's more important for us to survive than for us to build that connection with our emotions. So this little boy suppresses his anger. Our anger is our protector. We go through a second stage from infancy to toddler. This is actually called the psychological birth, right? This is what they call the second birth. Because what happens here is we actually start resisting our parents. We start pushing, testing our boundaries, testing our limits. And how we do that is through our anger. And when we don't have the safety to push and resist, we don't cultivate that strong sense of self. Because that's why we need our anger. It's our protector emotion. It helps us cultivate that strong sense of self and connection to self. So when a man doesn't have that, this is where he becomes a nice guy in relationship, where he has no boundaries. And the way I like to explain it is, imagine you have a farm, right? You have all of these animals on a farm, and you walk into your living room and there's a cow in your living room taking a shit. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing here? And it's this overwhelming, consuming, like this sense of, it's like, this is too much. And that's how most men feel in relationships, because they don't have fucking boundaries.
Because they're just getting shat on by the cow.
Yeah, because they don't have fences put in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't have the safety as a little boy to put fences in place, because they didn't claim that strength of their anger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where the nice guy comes from, where he doesn't set boundaries. He won't speak his truth in the fear of his partner leaving, because a relationship to a nice guy is his savior. A relationship is like his lifeline support. He'll always need to be in one. Yeah. So yeah, the third one. So it's to know that you're loved. It's to know that you matter, that you're a high priority in the world. And the third one is to know that your parents are okay. Yeah. So what I mean by okay is they're home. You can feel their heart. You can feel that they're connected to themselves. Their
And to each
relationship's
other.
okay.
Yeah.
Right? They're intimate with each other. They have a beautiful relationship and connection with each other. They're vulnerable. They're open. They express and feel their emotions. Right? They're not operating from their wounding and their wounded inner child. Now, what happens is when we feel that they're not okay, we either make it mean that it's my problem or it's my fault, because we're egocentric. The world revolves around us as kids. So if it's my problem, therefore a man, that little boy becomes a man in a relationship where anything that his partner feels when she's not okay emotionally, he makes it mean that it's his problem.
And he needs to fix it.
And he needs to fix it.
Right away. And
Yes.
women hate that.
Yes.
I just want you to fucking listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is why for so long I've been in the personal development space and none of it fucking worked for me. It's like, just try not to fix your partner's emotions. It's like, no, that doesn't work, because beneath that is the shame that there's something wrong with me because you're not okay.
Yeah.
And that's the shame that drives him to go, I need to fix you. I need you to be okay so I'm okay.
And we get so triggered when our partner's not okay. Like we can't deal with it. It's crazy.
Yep.
So that all comes from the childhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, so I need to know that my parents are okay. It's either my fault. Sorry, it's either my problem so that I have to fix, or it's my fault. So then he carries that guilt throughout his entire life that it's his fault that his parents are not okay emotionally. Now, the emotion of guilt, behind guilt is this sense and feeling like I need to make up for something I've done wrong. So he spends his entire life living in this state of survival and fear, feeling like he has to prove himself to his parents. Yeah. So beneath that is all of this toxic shame. That's beneath all of the nice guy, the high performer who's anxious, depressed, who's shut down from his emotions, who doesn't have the emotional capacity for his family.
Yeah.
All of that is a reflection of that little boy and his core emotional needs that he didn't have met in childhood.
There's so much I want to unpack here, man.
Yeah.
We have a client, he does about 80 million a year, and he constantly says, I don't feel like it's enough. Got a great marriage. I don't feel like it's enough. Mm-hmm. Got beautiful children. I don't feel like it's enough. And you can see this wounding within him, and nothing is ever enough because he doesn't feel enough. And it all comes from the childhood. I just had my second daughter 24 days ago. And I got quite emotional when you were talking about this idea of love, matter, parents okay. Because I would like to think I have my shit together. Mm-hmm. I'd like to think I'm a great father. But I realized that almost every day, my daughter, she's sleeping in my bed, my oldest, she says, Daddy, can you stay at home today? And I say, no, Daddy's got to go to work. And she says, why? And then I explain to her, I'm building a business. Everything we have is because of what Daddy does. But I didn't realize up until now that she might be creating a story that she doesn't matter. She smiles and understands, but there is a possibility there. And that really struck a nerve with me. So thank you for sharing that with me. Another story I'd like to share is with Talia, my eldest. She gets angry quite a lot. She's an angry human, angry little girl, 3.5. And what Rosie and I have been doing with her is we'll say, what are you feeling? Angry. Where are you feeling that? In my chest. Okay, what's making you angry? And we'll unpack the emotion. Now, for the first 2 years of her life, we didn't do that. And for the first 2 years of her life, I was a grumpy high performer, right? You come home, you snap at your kid, you feel fucking guilty. So many men listening now can relate. And what I've started doing is when I will get grumpy, it happened 2 days ago, I won't yell, but I'll just be a dick, you know, that dick tonality. And I'll go to her 5 minutes later, because sometimes she'll run away. I feel like a piece of shit. I'll go to her 5 minutes later and say, Talia, Daddy's so sorry. I lost my temper and I felt angry, and that wasn't my intention. And then she'll come out of her little hiding spot and look at me, and I feel fucking guilty. And I'll explain to her why I was angry and what happened. And she'll instantly come to me because she feels connected. And man, as a father, anyone who's listening who hasn't experienced that, like that is such a powerful feeling, because it's not about not feeling this trauma or this anger or this anxiety or being the nice guy. It's programmed into us. It's going to fucking happen. it's about working through it with our loved ones, right? Is that sort of on point with what you're talking about?
Yeah, like that, like your daughter understanding why dad's angry. It's like
Yeah.
it's actually okay to be angry.
Yeah.
Emotions are okay. They're trying to actually bring something forward for us.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely okay. And yeah, providing that, that representation of like, it is okay to be angry. It's okay to feel shame. It's okay to feel guilty. All of it. It's the human experience. Yeah.
So it's understanding the emotion, being aware of it, that human experience, and then choosing something different, rewiring the way you show up. So that's the journey of boy to man. Talk to me about the journey of man to leader. And I really want to touch on conscious relationships, sexual energy, and being the king. So maybe that will come into this.
Yeah.
But let's say you're emotionally aware, you're learning about the trauma of not being loved and not being there and not having okay relationships with the parents. What's next after that stage?
Yeah. So what's next after that is helping a man create the discernment between his boy and between his man.
Yeah.
What happens is most men they don't know the difference between the little boy within him and the man.
Yeah.
And normally I would say the first like 4, 5, 6 weeks of a man's journey that I take through, like the little boy processes is he's like, I see my little boy, but I feel him. Like, I feel like I am him. And it's like, yeah, because you're enmeshed with him. You don't know the difference between the boy and your man. So it's developing that connection to when you feel like you're in your power, when you feel like you're in your like integrated self, in your like man. And it's a felt sense.
When you're in the man, eh?
Yeah. And it's being able to recognize that and then the little boy. So creating discernment between the man and the boy. So for example, like your client, where it's like, I do this, I never feel enough. I do this, I never feel enough. It's in those moments when he doesn't feel enough. Is this the boy or the man? And there's many different ways that we actually cultivate a practice to check in with your boy in that moment, to really hold him in that moment. And typically what happens is it's this sense of like, oh, wow, I can actually receive the amount of money I just made, right? I can actually receive the love of my partner now, right? Because the little boy is not still feeling that he's not enough. Yeah. So it's like this sense of like, oh, the boy can relax and the man can come through now. And his tone will change. Yeah. He'll become more relaxed, more present. You'll feel him. Most women are seeking to feel their man. Yeah. And that's that journey from head to heart. Now, from heart down to balls, cultivating that relationship with your sexual energy, right? So our sexual energy as men is our power. It literally creates life. And that energy, that power, most men just waste it. And I'm not just talking about just watching porn or, jacking off and legit wasting their energy. But that's also a representation of how they're leaky with their energy, with their time, with their intentions. That's a huge one. Like a man being super intentional with everything that he does. It's like he's very purposeful with that energy because he knows how powerful it is. Where most men just go throughout life and they just end up wherever because they're not really intentional with their time and their energy because they just waste it. So cultivating that energy is how I developed that was me attaching myself to a purpose and a mission that was far greater than me and is far greater than me that I'll probably never achieve. The amount of men, the millions of men that I want to help and impact and serve, the level of integrity that I need to be in with myself to be a role model for those men, right? That's more important to me than wasting my fucking time. So the man we become on the journey of actually fulfilling that mission, right, takes for us to be so intentional with our energy, so direct with our energy. And that energy as well, like it's like our sexual energy is extremely creative, where this is where you get to use that creative energy and bring it through your physical vessel and literally create your mission, create your vision of what it is that you want to bring forward into the world. So it's really cultivating that energy in the sense of deciding on what it is that you want to bring to the world, the thing that lights you up, that's most meaningful to you, fucking off all the stories about how hard that might be or how or why that might not work for you, and doing everything in your power to become the man that you need to be in order to actually fulfill that vision that you want to bring forward.
Yeah, which will change your life. Now, let's say you're a plumber with 6 staff and your marriage is fucked and your wife isn't having sex with you and your kids don't listen to you. You feel like a piece of shit. You drink every night. Or you're a guy who's a sole trader, or you're a, guy who has an electrical company. Like, how does that guy create a purpose and mission bigger than himself? Because he's struggling to keep his head above water. He's fucking drowning between health, wealth, and relationships. He doesn't work out anymore. His wife doesn't respect him. Like that guy, to hear what you said, goes, that sounds nice. But like, how the fuck does that guy create a purpose and mission? Because your purpose and mission is very clear: help millions of men. Not every guy has that.
Yeah.
So how does that guy find that?
Yeah. One of my mentors, Dan Martell, speaks about, like, he's so adamant about make sure your fucking ladder is up the right wall, because if you get to the top of it, you got to climb all the way back down and then walk up the other one. Right. And I'm so grateful that I decided very early on. I was that man. I was a carpenter. I was in construction. I had my own business. I was taking on employees. Like, it was doing well. I was 21 years old, making $15,000 to $20,000 a week as a carpenter, as a builder, right? Working 7 days a week. I became my dad. Right? That was me. And beneath all of that was the little boy who felt shameful that there's something inherently wrong with him. So he must be and become whoever he needs to be in order to have that approval of dad. And it got to the point where, yes, I built that level of quote unquote success, but I was extremely empty. And and beneath, here's one really important thing for men to understand. Beneath a lot of this stuff that men feel, and the reason why they listen to these podcasts and they come to the events and they start doing the work, is this deep sense of loneliness or emptiness. That right there is the byproduct of a wounded inner child. That right there is the byproduct of a man who is disconnected from his core, from who he is at his core. That disconnection from self. That sense of loneliness and emptiness is a reflection of the little boy who's disconnected from himself. So that was me. I had built this business. I was building this business. I was like, starting to grow in the construction world. And I got to this point where, about a period of 6 months, where I was like, it'd be so much easier and less painful to leave this world than it would be to stay in it. Right? I considered taking my life for about 6 months, and I was just so heavily depressed. Now, what it took for me to make the decision that I'm going to put my happiness first above anything else. I'm going to go after what lights me up and makes me happy, because that is where I'll be most happy, fulfilled, and successful. Because I'm going to give it the energy. I'm going to have fun doing it, right? And I knew that, right? And I didn't realize that I was actually listening to my heart for the first time. Yeah. And I know that there's all the logistics of having a family, of having a business and all of that. And look, I had to get rid of everyone. I put my trailer in the shed, and it was like this big decision of, I'm putting that aside now, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do to pursue coaching. I worked at a fucking bottle shop. I went from making $15,000 a week to making like $400 a week working in a bottle shop. I hated every minute of it. But while I was there, I was studying. I was so intentional with my time. Every spare minute I had, podcasts, reading books, doing programs, doing certifications, doing anything that was going to help me get to where I wanted to go. Because I just knew that it is just a matter of time. If I could create this life, right? Imagine the life I could create if I was doing it from a conscious place, from a place of a deep level of awareness and knowing that my ladder's up the right wall. So yes, it's not going to be easy. Yes, it's going to take 5 years, right? It was a journey of 5 years before I actually started making some money. Yes, I lived in friggin' flatmates with randoms. I had to strip back my lifestyle for 5 years to then get to the position that I'm in now, where, I make what most builders make in an entire year. I make that in a week now, on purpose, waking up every single day with a clear vision, clear purpose and mission.
So that took a huge amount of courage on your part. let's say you are that guy I described earlier, you're working hard and you don't want to be a coach. Could it be accurate that courage is required to create a purpose and mission that is being the best version of yourself? So like you can have 7 employees in a business that doesn't help a lot of people. Maybe it just fixes roofs. But the purpose and mission could become being the best father possible, dealing with your fucking wounds, studying and learning every night, doing that while being a great husband. Like if you think about it, if your body, mind, relationships, and wealth are all lined up, you've mastered all of them, can that also be a purpose and a mission? Because that sounds pretty fucking epic.
Yeah. See, the thing is, bro, I didn't leave the building world with this clear vision.
Yeah.
I had no fucking idea what I was doing. Yet I knew that I needed to listen to what fulfilled me and made me happy.
Yeah.
I did not leave that with this clear vision of I'm going to be helping millions of men all over the world. Absolutely no way. Our purpose is us, first and foremost. And with us healing that little boy and awakening the man, the gifts that you will receive within that is your purpose. And then how you bring that to the world will then be your mission. That's what most people get wrong. They think that their purpose is something outside of them. You are your greatest purpose. And the more that you cultivate that self, I call it, I explained the disconnect before. The false self is empty. It's the lonely little boy. It's the emptiness within. When we go back and heal that little boy and integrate the man, we then go down the path of our true self, which is full, which is whole and complete within itself. And that's the powerful man. That's your purpose. And being that man in the world, no matter whatever you do, like that's the purpose. How you then bring that and channel that into the world is your mission as a man. And that could, if you're making coffee and you're doing it from the best place possible, and you know that you're here to make the best fucking cup of coffee to make someone's day, if that's it, amazing. As long as you are happy and fulfilled. And here's the thing, you're probably going to be more successful doing that thing than doing this other thing that you think that you're supposed to be doing.
So true. And the way you use that frame, power, I think people might have skipped it. Powerful man.
Yep.
You are full of power. Our company is called the Empowered Man. Like you are full of power. So the purpose isn't external. It's something that happens within by healing that boy, becoming that man, becoming that leader. And now the mission becomes clear. Because what we think the mission is make money and provide. But we feel fucking empty.
It's a byproduct.
It's exactly. And the crazy thing is a lot of guys listening right now will go, this sounds great, but they won't get it until they get it.
Yes.
Right. And when you're in this place of power and fulfillment and mission and purpose driven, you make way more money. You have way more fun doing it. Your marriage is fucking on fire. Everything flows from a place of abundance as opposed to scarcity.
Yeah.
Like think about this boy energy. It's very scarcity based, right?
Yeah, it's
like,
untrustworthy.
I need more. I must have more. We must debate and shit all over ourselves. So you've clearly defined this idea of purpose. I want to go back to sexual energy. Let's say you are the leader now. Let's say you've taken that energy. You've gone from boy to man, man to leader. Can you describe the day in a life of a man who lives in this place? I want you to talk about how he feels. I want you to talk about what his marriage looks like, his relationships. Because if you can like paint the picture of what it looks like, I think a lot of guys are going to run towards that shit. What would it look like for me as a listener to step into leadership?
Yeah.
Paint that
so
picture.
First of all, I love that, yours is called the Empowered Man. Mine's the Inspired Man.
Love it.
And it's like to be inspired is to be filled with spirits, to be filled with the life force energy, to be whole and complete.
Yeah.
Now, what that means beneath that is a word that most men have probably heard, and that's to be an integrated man. Now, within the word integrated means integrity. The word integrity, if you go look it up, it means wholeness. And it means to be whole and complete within yourself. So for a man to be the most integrated, powerful, inspired, empowered man he can possibly be, is to be the most whole self he can possibly be, which is loving and accepting all parts of him, especially the little boy within him who feels that he's unworthy or not good enough for love, right? So a day in the life would be a man waking up and he's actually fucking excited. Like that at the bottom of it all, it's this sense of joy and excitement and this sense of like feeling actually proud of what he's created, right? But not only that, it's this deep meaning with the people that he's actually leading. It's this deep sense of, and I'm just kind of explaining like my experience of this because I don't know any others. It's this sense of deep meaning and fulfillment because it's like I'm responsible for all of these people, right? And I got to show up for all of these people, and they're actually reliant, dependent on me. And by me being the best version of myself, I actually get to impact all of these people. Whether or not you're a builder, if you're a builder, by you just being the best version of yourself, the healthiest, fittest, strongest, happiest, most successful version of yourself, you're going to inspire all of the young men on that job site to be the best version of themselves as well, right? As the masculine, it's what fulfills us is like progression, is being the best version of ourselves. It's like our soul's purpose is growth, evolution, and expansion, right? And to not only be that yourself, but then to have other people, the responsibility of being that for other people. There's this level of fulfillment that comes from that. That's like no other. Like, you know what it's like when you have a team of people, right, that are kind of relying on your leadership, or like your family, they're relying on your leadership and your depth of connection to self. There's a sense of fulfillment that comes from that I can provide. Because at the core of it, as men, we just want to fucking provide. But what most men get wrong is they think that they confuse providing with if I just give you all of this stuff, right? If I give you the home, if I give you all the money, the cars, all this stuff, right? That's what I think providing is. But beneath all of that is the deep sense of emotional providing that you provide through your leadership as just a byproduct of who you are. It's not, I'm going to be a leader so I can provide for my partner. It's no, I just organically, naturally provide for her because of who I am as a man and the connection I have to myself. Because that's not an integrated man. If he's doing it for her or for something else, he's not whole within himself. It's not coming from this sense of empowerment. It's coming from this sense of lack. If I do this for you, then I get something in return.
Give me sex. Oh, I just worked so fucking hard. Why are you not sucking my dick?
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yes.
This is what most men do subconsciously. And that's the little boy.
Yep.
I haven't got what I want. Throw my toys out the fucking cot.
Yep.
So you're this integrated man. You wake up full of energy. You're leading the people around you. How would it look like for your relationships? What happens to your connection? All that sort of stuff. Like, paint that picture for me.
Yeah. It's this sense of like unshakable energy.
Yeah.
It's this sense of like this fucking big tree that's been standing for hundreds of years, and you know how deep the roots are. So no matter what comes up, nothing will knock you over. Yes, you can move. Yes, you're flexible. Yeah, yes, the tree can shake in the wind, which is the feminine, right? The movement of life. But you're so fucking solid and grounded in yourself because you've met the depth of yourself, right? A tree that tries to grow really fucking tall but has no depth in the roots falls over very easily. Very small push. Right. But a man who's met the depth of himself, healed the little boy, continues to face himself and meet himself in his depth, becomes so deeply rooted in himself. And it's this sense of like unshakableness where it's like, I know that whatever you bring to me, I can hold that. Whether it's you cheated on me, I'm okay within myself. And I know that that's not a reflection of who I am. And I know what I'm worthy of being, worthy of receiving in relationship. It's the kind of energy where it's like, I know that I'm worthy of being met in relationship, because relationship is a thing of meeting each other, right? It's not overextending each other or being less or more of what you are. It's being able to be solid in yourself, unshakable in yourself, have the emotional capacity for her to lean on you as the big grounded tree that you are, but it's also not moving as well. It's also being solid in that, where you know what you're worthy of in relationship. And that's where you're able to, if this partner can't meet me to what I know that I deserve, that's okay. I know someone else will have that capacity, and that's what I know that I deserve. So it's this sense of like unshakable energy and like strong connection to self. And that's where it all begins. It's all based on that integrated man, integrated self.
And that integrated man is the leader, right? Because when you think about it, most men who do this well, their partner's not going to cheat or leave. They're going to come on the journey. If you don't mind, I'd love to share a story about where I was at that relates to this. 3.5 years ago, Talia, my first daughter, was born. And I thought I had everything. I was your typical broken boy, right? So I had the houses, the $1 million, the cars, the toys, the marriage. And 6 months after she was born, I was severely depressed. I wanted to kill myself. because I thought I had achieved success, the family, the house, the car, the money, and I had nothing left to aim for. So I'm in this dark place. Sex disappears in my marriage. My wife doesn't appreciate or respect me. I fucking hate the man staring back at me, but I put on the smile that everything's okay because I'm successful. Fast forward to today, sex multiple times a week, amazing family, fulfillment, peace, joy, connection. The difference between the Tony that was about to end his life and the Tony that loves his life today was not money. It wasn't even intimacy or connection. It was the decision to take responsibility and integrate. That's the word you use, integrate myself. Now, what does that mean? Looking in the mirror and going, you know what? If my life isn't where I want it to be, that's on me. It's not my partner's fault. It's not my business's fault. It's not my team's fault. I need to lead myself. And by leading myself, the team comes on the journey. My wife comes on the journey. She starts doing personal development. So I don't have to fix her anymore. She wants to work on herself. Holy shit. I don't have to fix my team anymore. They want to work hard. Holy shit. And I was like, how was I missing this? And so many men wait for the world to step up without realizing that if you don't have what you want, it starts with leadership. Like leadership, but you can't be a leader if you're a fucking boy.
Two things that come up for me in this is the reason why I call my journey the Inspired Man Project. Is to be filled with spirit yourself, which is to be the integrated whole man by healing the boy and awakening the leader, right? And in doing so, first of all, being inspired within yourself and naturally then inspiring everyone around you, right? And kind of triggering them and inviting them in whatever way just through your presence alone into them also becoming the best fucking version of themselves as well. And the second part that comes up for me in that as well is the Japanese honorable death, the seppuku. I speak about it with my men all the time. And it's most men are waiting to, so the seppuku is where right, he
but for the listeners at home, actually explain it for the listeners at home. I know what it is.
So the seppuku is where if the Japanese, like the samurai, the warrior was going to die, he's going to at least do it in an honorable way. So he's at least going to do it himself and complete it himself in an honorable way for something that's far greater than him. But what most men do is they try and give the sword to everyone else, or they wait until someone fucking stabs them instead of them looking themselves in the mirror and go, you know what? I'm going to honor myself in this, and I'm going to fucking go through that death, that ego death of the ego death of the false self that he's built and created. Like, I'm sure you went through that. All the success by the sounds that you've created, all of that, there was a death that happened.
So many deaths.
But it would have been a conscious choice.
There was a very big one because I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm taking these antidepressants and I'm a coach of men. I'm a fucking fraud, false self. And I'm about to end my life. I'm thinking of ending my life, but I have a fucking daughter. How dare I? And I looked in the mirror. I'm like, what are you fucking doing? And it was in that moment, I'm like, this part of me, you're right, needs to fucking die.
And actually honoring that for something greater than you, all of these men, your family, all of that, instead of being selfish and continuing down that path, or taking your life and not honoring that and really stepping into your power.
And so many men don't realize they have that power. The power is within every single man. And I think we get so comfortable and complacent in the pain in our lives. We get comfortable in depression, comfortable in stress, comfortable in a broken marriage or a lifeless marriage. That inspiration is within everyone listening right now. You're giving it to them, but they don't need to hear you. You're just a tool. They have it. And if they get coaching or support from you, myself, anyone else, that tool then flourishes, it grows. I want to swap gears here. I want to talk about sex, right? You talked about sexual energy. There's a lot of men out there. One messaged me yesterday. He's like, I want my wife to desire me. Now, you've probably got a lot to unpack here. How does a man who's listening to this take the principles you've taught today and get his wife to want to have sex with him? Now, that's a very direct frame. People will hate hearing it that way, but let's talk about desire.
First of all, on that, the sad truth is a man can do everything in his fucking power to be the integrated, empowered, inspired man. This leader, he could be the most safe man in the freaking world. He could provide in every way possible. But if his partner is looking through the lenses of men are unsafe based on her unresolved trauma and her sexual abuse that she's experienced in childhood, no matter what this man does, right, it's going to be really hard for her to open her body to him or feel safe with him because that's so foreign to her. So just putting that out there, because there's so many men that, yes, like, and because this was me, right? I was doing the work. I was doing the embodiment work. I was showing up week in, week out. I wasn't being leaky with my energy. I was being with so much integrity and intention with my energy. And yet she still couldn't open her body to me for about 5 or 6 months. And as a man, that perpetuated the shame within me that there's something inherently wrong or broken with me and my partner doesn't even want to have sex with me.
And that's where a lot of men cheat.
Yep. But that was the little boy within me who kept choosing someone who couldn't fully fucking choose me.
So let's say you're not one of those guys and your partner hasn't been sexually abused.
Yep.
And she just doesn't want to have sex with you. Like she's always tired.
Yep.
What does that guy have to do?
Yeah. I would be asking her, what is it that she needs to feel safe to be more sexually active with him? What is it? Like, ask her. She's direct feedback. You don't need to try and solve and fix and analyze this fucking problem on your own, right? Ask her, what is it that you would like from me to feel safe enough or to feel more safe for us to connect and have sex more often? What do you need?
What if she says, I don't know?
Well, yeah, great question.
Yeah, because like a lot of guys, we tell them what to say and their partner's like, well, I don't know. You should know that. That's a big one we hear, right? It's like, you should know. Like, I don't think women often know what they want or emotionally desire because they've got their own wounds as well.
Yeah.
So like, first of all, the courage to ask your partner that, for a lot of guys, you can tell them exact framing. And I'm sure you've experienced this. They're like, can't do that. Like they can literally have a meeting with CEOs and fucking huge meetings worth millions of dollars. And they struggle to have that conversation with their partner. And then they finally have the courage or the balls, leadership to have it. And their partner's like, I don't know. And they're like, well, what the fuck do I do now?
I bring it back to the little boy who disconnected from himself and had to be whoever he needed to be in order to be loved. And in doing so, he neglects his wants, needs, and desires. Doesn't even fucking consider them. So then he gets into a relationship and it's like it doesn't matter what I want, right? It's like, it's all about her, what she wants. So he needs to come back to himself and become the integrated man and get clear on what is his wants and desires. Does he want to be having sex 3, 4, 5 times a week, a day? What does that actually look like for him from an integrated place, not from the little boy, right? From the integrated man. What does that actually look like? And yet again, coming back to what I shared before, relationship is we meet in the middle. We're meeting each other in relationship. So until he knows what his wants and desires are and knows that his needs are valid, because our needs are valid, right? When a man comes back to his integration, his integrated self, he knows that his emotional needs are valid. He knows that emotional, physical connection's valid, right? And if he can bring that forward to his partner, right? And if it's just not being met, if it's just not being received, now he's in relationship with someone who can't actually meet him in relationship. And the big fear here is the fear of the grief that he might actually have to let this go. Right? I like to say that in order to love fully, you must be willing to grieve. Because if you're not willing to grieve, you're not willing to walk away from something that doesn't fucking serve you. And so many men are so scared of that grief because it's like throwing a hand grenade in your life that you don't need right now. But that hand grenade, right, is going to reveal the grief that was potentially already there of the little boy, right, who received this emotional unavailability from his partners, from his parents, then becomes a man who is attracted unconsciously to women who are emotionally unavailable, who can't love him in the way that he needs. So as he starts awakening, I see this all the time, he starts realizing, shit, this woman doesn't actually have the capacity to meet me in relationship. Well, bro, you got to be willing to grieve that. Because if you're not willing to grieve that and step away from that, you're going to keep fucking playing small, trying to fit in her box, or being the nice guy, becoming whoever you need to be in order to have sex.
Yeah. Manipulation tactics. How often do men do this? Like we're the grumpy cunt. And then when we want something, we change our tactic, we change our tonality, we try and weasel our way in. And then sometimes we get the sex, but when we don't, we get fucking pissed. We get angry. We become that little kid. I would say a caveat to what you've shared, because it's super relevant, is you're not saying leave your partner. You're saying do the work, become that man, become that leader, integrate yourself, inspire yourself, work through your trauma. And then if you've done that for 3 months, 6 months, and your partner still isn't coming on the journey, and you can put your hand on your heart and say, I've done everything I can to level up, that's when you have that conversation. Because I'm sure there's some man going to be like, you're right. I am going to work on myself, and she's still not giving me what I want. It's been a week. Like, her love bank is empty. A good frame we use for this is the daily deposit. So like, if you go to the bank and you try and withdraw 10 grand and you've got $1,000 in the bank, they tell you to fuck off or you go into overdraft. And most men are trying to withdraw from an empty bank from their partner because you said that word earlier, emotional needs. Our partner's emotional needs aren't met. I want to touch on your viral $10 million reel. Before I do, I want to finish off on the sex topic. Rosie and I were really fucked sexually about 3 years ago, ironically at the same time. Like, just zero intimacy, zero sex. And I would blame my wife for not wanting to fuck me. I'm working hard. I'm making all this money. Like, you should give me something in return. This is where the stories come in for a lot of guys. Your job's not that hard. Look after the house, make sure the kids don't die. Super misogynistic, but we think this way as men, right? So I called a mentor and I'm like, she's not giving me this. She's not giving me this. I'm giving her all this. And he said, shut the fuck up. What are you not doing? I'm like, what are you talking about? What am I not doing? Like, I just told you I'm doing all these. No, shut the fuck up. What are you not doing? And it sounds silly, but this light bulb went off and I'm like, wow, I'm probably not giving her what she wants. And from that, we created the system called laser focus. So love, appreciation, support, understanding, and respect. So all I did was, I'm like, how do I make my wife feel loved? Give her more of that. How does she feel appreciated? Don't know. Let's ask her. How do I support her? How do I understand her, respect her? I start giving her that stuff. 2 weeks later, she wants to have sex with me. And it sounds so simple, right? It's like, fill your partner's love bank. Give them laser focus, all this love and appreciation, not for the sake of getting sex, because you want to. You did that at the beginning of the relationship. And then all of a sudden what the fuck? And I think a lot of guys do this. We blame our partner for not giving to us instead of going, you know what? How do I give to her? Not because I'm a little bitch, because she deserves it. Magic begins to happen. How does a man get out of his own way? Because he knows that's true. But he's playing like, I'm waiting for her. She's not. How does a man take charge here sexually?
One thing that comes up for me in that as well is we can give men the tactics, right? But if that little boy underneath still feels that I have to do in order to be loved, right? The tactics won't last long. So when that little boy becomes the man who feels like I have to do in order to, becomes that, if I create success, if I do all of this stuff, then you'll fuck me. Then we'll be connected emotionally. But it's like, no, your presence alone is enough, right? She wants your heart. She doesn't want all this stuff. She wants your heart. And in doing so, then she'll want to have sex with you.
So it begins from doing a place of being heart-centered and expecting nothing in return. You're not doing it to get, you're doing it to give. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And basically until that little boy, it's like it's the 95% of you, right? If you're consciously trying to just be a better man, or if you're consciously just trying to do things differently than you've always done, it's going to change a little bit. But if the 95% of you underneath that is this little boy who still feels in his body that I have to do in order to be loved, right? He will struggle to actually just receive love because he feels that I haven't done anything for this. That makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. You keep saying this word conscious, right? So there's a man listening here and they've got to this part of the podcast. They're committed. They're all in. How does a man take what you've taught today and live consciously?
To live consciously is to be aware of your thoughts, your habits, your actions, your behaviors, and for the most part, to be intentional with your energy. And in order for a man to begin doing that is to cultivate a relationship with his breath. I like to say the quality of your life comes down to the quality and the connection that you have to your breath, because that's a representation of how connected you are to your nervous system. So to live a conscious life is to have a calm, regulated nervous system, right? And it's not like you can try your hardest to be conscious, but being conscious is more of a being than a doing, right? It's coming back to creating a regulated nervous system and coming from a place of just beingness.
So regulation and being in the moment, which is what a lot of guys struggle with.
And it's what most women are fucking yearning for.
Yeah. A man who can be still but stoic.
Yep.
So how do you have that masculine and that feminine,
Mhm.
right? You have, we'll drop your links down below. You have a bunch of viral reels. Like viral means a lot of people have watched them, they've blown up. And there's one that has almost 9 million views. I'm not sure if that's the one you want to use, but I wanted to see if you could sort of share on this podcast while guys are listening before they go check you out. Like what did you say to get that many people to want to listen to you? Like what do you want to share it with us?
Yeah, brother. It's almost at 10, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's like 9.8
Yeah.
or something. Insane.
Collectively between Facebook and Instagram, it's upwards of, I think it's like around 80 to 100 million views.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right.
Yep.
So what
Yep.
happened?
So obviously I shared my journey, my story around leaving construction and whatnot. And from the place of, for so long, it was, I'm trying to be this coach. I'm trying to be this masculine embodiment coach and all of this stuff, right? What I did was I fucked all of that off and I faced myself. I came back to the integration of healing my little boy, and I became empowered within myself first and foremost. And I knew that there were gifts within me facing myself, and I'm just going to share those with the world. So it was me cultivating it within myself first, becoming integrated within myself first, and then sharing from that integrated place, so from that powerful place. So being the embodiment of the inspired man, being filled within myself first, and then just sharing that with the world. It's like my cup's overflowing into the world. Where most coaches and most mentors are still trying to do it from a place of the false self, and it's felt. The amount of people on a day-to-day basis, I'll scroll like the explore page and I will see my content word for word on someone else's page, right? They've copied everything from how I sit down to the
beard,
yeah,
fake beard,
to the journaling, to all of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hit different because it's an energetic felt sense that they're not embodied in what I've been through, that I've shared. And that's why it doesn't work for them. So I've just shared from that place. And I was like, hey, look, I'm detaching myself from wanting to go viral or wanting to grow the social media following and whatnot. And I'm just going to share my deepest truth from my heart. And if this at least impacts 5 men, which I know it will, because I'm able to speak to such a depth that most people can't because they haven't been through it, right? If I can at least speak to that man that's experiencing this, that's all I care about. And as soon as I made that decision, along with being fucking consistent with my content over 5 years, right? But after I made that decision, it was legit within a week. I had my first video hit like, I don't know, it was like 70,000. And then within, it was probably within a period about 6 months, about 250,000 followers and about 3,500 men applying to work with me.
Insane.
Just because of me being who I am.
Insane. That's amazing, brother. And we'll drop everything down below for guys to check you out. What is one final piece of advice you would give to a guy that he can take away today and implement?
It would be if anything triggered you in this podcast, and a trigger could be like, oh, like maybe I should look at that. Fucking go head first into it now, because you can change from a place of inspiration or pain and suffering. Your partner doesn't have to leave you, right, in order for you to go through this work and face the grief of that little boy. So it would be, man, any man listening to this, it'd be in whatever way, whether that's working with you, me, anyone else, go heal that little boy. Because we're all walking around today. Every man is walking around today with a little boy inside him. And most men are walking around from the energy and consciousness of a little boy, and they're fucking grown adult children walking around trying to be in healthy relationship and trying to create success in the world. So yeah, that would be my piece of advice.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Don't man the fuck up, grow the fuck up, and you will man the fuck up. Amazing. Guys, go check Ryan out. We'll put his links down below. This has been extremely impactful. I love what you have to share. And yeah, there's no one else doing it like you, brother. So fucking grateful for the work you're doing. Keep changing lives one man at a time. The world needs men like you. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Awesome. If you're getting value from this podcast episode and you want to learn how you can have a better relationship, a better marriage, you can be a better father, husband, the man you know your family deserves, then it's very fucking hard to do that just by listening and getting fed information. Sure, this is valuable, but what's much more valuable is having a custom roadmap and a custom plan. And that's exactly what we do here at The Empowered Man. So if you want to learn how to fix your marriage, reconnect with your children, and find work-life balance, then that's exactly what we want to help you with. We'll help you make more money, working less hours, have that life you deserve by becoming unfuckwithable. Just tap the link down below in the description and go and book a coaching session with my Empowered Man team. On that session, we'll build your custom Empowered Man roadmap to fix your marriage, reconnect with your children, find work-life balance, and have the life you deserve. Click the link down below right now.